I'm Leora James, 30 years old, and for 5 years, I was the backbone my family stood on. Every bill, every meal, every emergency, I carried it quietly, convincing myself it was love. But love without limits becomes a leash, and mine had grown tight enough to choke me. This isn't a story about rebellion. It's about release. The moment I realized that saving everyone else was the reason I was drowning. If you've ever been the reliable one, the one they always call just until we get back on our feet, this story is for you because one day, I stopped carrying them and finally learned to stand. My boots scuffed the front steps as I wrestled with the lock. October air sliced through my thin jacket. The same jacket I kept promising myself I'd replace and never did. 12 hours at North Star Fulfillment had my shoulders aching like I'd been carrying a warehouse on my back. I wanted steam, silence, and sleep, in that order. The door gave with a stubborn click. Rose spray hung in the air, my mother's signature scent, somehow shrinking the house instead of softening it. "That you, Leora?" came her voice from the living room, TV drama roaring. "It's me," I said, dropping my tote on the entry table. A stack of mail slid sideways. The red stamp on the mortgage notice slapped my eyes. $1,280 due by Thursday. 3 days. I ran a thumb across the embossed letters and felt my ribs tighten. The fridge answered my hope with cold light, and not much else. My neatly labeled meal prep containers, Tuesday to Saturday, lined up like soldiers. Everything portioned. Everything counted. Everything controlled. The rest of the shelves stared back, white and bare. "Did you get my prescriptions?" Mom called, not quite asking, not quite thanking. "They're in my bag," I said, forehead pressed to the fridge door. She lowered the TV a notch. "My bag's a mess today. Tea would help." I filled the kettle, the thin paper of my cashed paycheck still in my pocket, like a joke that wasn't funny. I set $1,330 beside the mortgage notice, covering the bill plus the late fee they never failed to tack on, then leaned against the counter until the whistle cut the room. Through the kitchen doorway, I could see the small room I'd planned to make a studio, drafting table, wall of cork, sunlight. The Mesa Ridge promotion letter still lived in the bottom drawer, edges yellowed. Regional supervisor. $24,000 more a year. A chance to build something with my name on it. Leora? The tea? I carried the mug in. Mom, Marvette, was tucked into my father's old leather chair, the screen washing her face a tired blue. She looked older than her 58 years tonight. "You took forever at work," she said, accepting the cup without looking away from the TV. "They have you doing extra again?" Dion called out sick. I covered his route. I perched on the edge of the sofa, careful not to sink. If I sank, I might never get up. "Extra hours, extra money," she said, tasting, then grimacing. "Not enough sugar." Her attention drifted to the silver-framed photo on the end table, Raina and Quentin on their wedding day, champagne smiles and matching ivory. Her fingers petted the frame. If you had Raina's lightness, she never gets weighed down by little things. The little things. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, copays. Raina doesn't handle the little things, I said evenly. "Your father would be proud of how you look after me," she replied, trump card played, neat and practiced. The words landed right where they always landed, twisting in the space between my sternum and spine. "I'm grabbing a shower," I said, because there was nothing else to say. In the bathroom mirror, a woman with practical hair and shadowed eyes stared back. "Just a few more months," I told her. "Then we start over." My jeans buzzed on the floor. I fished out the phone. Raina flashed across the screen. For half a second, I considered sending her to voicemail. "Family is family," Dad would have said. I answered. "Leora, guess what? We're coming home." My stomach dropped. Home. Quentin got cut. Brightline magazine is right-sizing. Can you believe it? After everything he gave them. Her voice dipped into a stage whisper. "Just until we get our feet back under us." The phrase ricocheted through me like it had 1,000 times since the funeral. Just until. Just for now. Just a little help. "You tell Mom yet?" I asked, though I already knew from her tone. She's thrilled. Says it'll be like old times. Knuckles tapped the bathroom door. Is that Raina? Mom asked. Let me talk to her. I cracked the door, and Mom took the phone with a smile I hadn't seen in months. Baby, I've already started planning. Yes. Yes, of course Leora is thrilled too. When I got the phone back, I walked to my room and shut the door. So, when? I asked. This weekend. Raina chirped. Perfect timing. Quentin has great leads already. You can use the guest room, I said. It's small, but... Oh, Mom already said we could have your room. She cut in. Makes more sense since it's bigger. You don't mind, right? You're hardly here with all those shifts. The world went quiet, like someone pressed mute. I stared at my walls, the one place in this house that felt like mine. Leora? You still there? Don't be selfish. The James family motto, reserved exclusively for me. I'll clear my things, I heard myself say. I stood in the center of the room after we hung up and watched my own hand lift to wave at Ms. Ellison watering her mum's next door, a reflex that belonged to the old me. For the first time in years, the truth slid into place. I wasn't a daughter in this house. I was a resource. When the well ran dry, they'd find a new one. The recognition didn't bring rage. It brought arrangement, like a room being quietly refurnished. If I was only what I provided, then maybe I could choose to provide to myself. Saturday, the doorbell chimed 3 sharp times. Raina never could wait longer than 5 seconds. I stepped from the cramped guest room where my life was now stacked in cardboard. The bedroom I'd slept in for 27 years emptied during my shift while I earned the money that paid this roof. Raina hit me with a hug and a cloud of perfume. Behind her, Quentin wrestled 3 coordinated leather suitcases that probably cost more than my entire closet. Leora, she squealed. I missed you. You too. My eyes tracked the luggage. For a man who'd just lost his job, he wasn't traveling light. Mom's in the kitchen making your favorites, I said, stepping aside. I told her not to fuss, Raina beamed, but you know how she is when her baby comes home. Her baby. Singular. The guest room's ready? I asked, already knowing it wasn't for them. Oh, please, she said, diamond flashing on her finger. You're such a homebody. This works perfectly. We need the space. Mom appeared, dish towel in hand, glowing in a way I hadn't seen since Dad. There's my girl, she said, to Raina, not to me, and the reunion played out like I was behind glass. Quentin, put your things in Leora's room, Mom called, still hugging my sister. She settled in the guest room. He raised an eyebrow. Already. Yesterday, I said, keeping my tone smooth. Mom was deficient. I wanted everything perfect for you too, she said, satisfied. I retreated to the kitchen and lifted the lid on the roast I'd seasoned while considering my budget. The smell used to mean comfort. Tonight it smelled like preference, plated beside carrots. The car keys are on the hook, Mom called. Quentin can take it Monday. Leora can bus it. My hand froze over the pot. What? I asked, turning. Job hunting, she said, like it was obvious. You'll manage the bus for a few days. A few days had a way of stretching into forever in this house. I have meetings across town, I said. I need my car. Mom's mouth tightened. Your sister needs us right now. You think of anyone besides yourself? The old guilt rose hot and acid. I swallowed it. I already told their landlord you'd cover their last 2 months, she added, adjusting a fridge magnet. Just until they're settled. You told what? Laughter filtered in from the hall. Raina's voice, low, conspiratorial, floated closer. We'll be fine, she murmured to Quentin. Leora always handles everything. The wooden spoon snapped in my hand. That night, on the lumpy fold-out in the guest room, I opened my laptop. The desk pinched my knees. An email thread between Mom and Raina sat in my inbox, 3 weeks old. I hovered over delete. Didn't. I opened it. Don't worry about Leora, Mom had written. She'll understand. She always does. 3 weeks. Their move wasn't sudden. I was the only one out of the loop. My phone buzzed. Dion from work. Offer in Pinecrest is still yours if you want it. Team lead. Company housing for 60 days. I set the phone face down, but the possibility burned brighter than the screen. From my old room, Raina's voice carried. We should redo this space, she told Quentin. Sell the old stuff and start fresh. My desk. My bed. My shelves. Old. Sellable. Ready for their style. In the morning, Mom slid a grocery list, twice as long as usual, across the table with a calculator total that ate nearly half my paycheck. We're family, she said when I didn't answer right away. We help each other. Through the window, Ms. Ellison watched Raina toss my herb garden into the trash. Basil. Mint. Thyme. 3 years of tending, appended like weeds. Ms. Ellison met my eyes and shook her head, just once. On my lunch break, I drove to the bank instead of eating. The manager scrolled through our joint account. You're the only one depositing, he said. Been that way a long while. On the way back, I called Dion. Is Pinecrest really still available? For you? Absolutely. That evening, as Raina and Mom planned a backyard welcome weekend and Quentin took my car to scout opportunities, I slipped into my former room. The closet held Raina's blouses. My desk was shoved to a corner. I knelt at the loose floorboard and pried it up. The Mesa Ridge letter, carefully folded, and my emergency stash, $6, 500 I'd scraped together in ones and 20s and stubbornness. Dad used to say, keep a little tucked away, Leo. The world changes quick. I booked movers for Monday at 9, requested my first personal day in over a year, and transferred the utilities into Marvette's name, leaving one mortgage payment sitting like a clean line across a messy page. I filed the mail forwarding form. I accepted the Pinecrest job, start date next Wednesday. From the guest room window, I watched Raina and Quentin rocking on Dad's porch swing, screens lighting their faces. Mom brought lemonade and fussed. No one asked where I was. For once, I didn't volunteer it. I lay back on the fold-out and stared at the ceiling. The house creaked. The October wind brushed the siding like a whisper. If they wanted everything I had, they could have one last gift. The space where I used to be. Monday came with a sky the color of clean paper, blank, ready. The movers rang at 9 on the 2 women in navy coveralls who worked like a metronome, steady, efficient, kind. I'd boxed my life into 6 neat stacks the night before. Labeled. Listed. Decided. Raina floated into the hallway in silk lounge pants, blinking like daylight was a personal offense. What's all this? She asked, tugging a suitcase zipper closed with manicured precision. I'm moving, I said, and felt the words sort the air. To where? Her voice pitched for drama, as if the house itself might weep. Pinecrest, I answered, passing 2 boxes to the crew. Team lead at North Star's hub there. Company housing for now. She glanced toward Mom's room, calculating. You're serious. Dead serious, I said, and the phrase surprised me with how alive it felt. Mom appeared in her robe, hand to her chest like a scene partner who'd lost the script. You chose this week to abandon us? She asked, as if there had been an approved week I'd missed. I chose this week to stop abandoning myself, I said, gently sliding a final box to the door. The utilities are now in your name. 1 month is paid. The mortgage has a fresh payment waiting. I left instructions on the fridge, numbers for a payment plan, the clinic, the pharmacy. I'm not your emergency fund anymore. Quentin clattered down the hall with my car keys dangling from his finger. So, about the ride? Not available, I said. There's a bus line 3 blocks over. Schedules are in the drawer by the door. He looked toward Raina, who didn't meet his eye. Ms. Ellison appeared on her porch next door, arms crossed, apron dusted with flour. She lifted her chin, you're doing it, and that small gesture steadied me more than any speech ever could. When the last box was strapped and the form signed, I carried my tote to the curb. Mom stood in the doorway, framed by sunlight and habit. Your father would never, she said. My father taught me not to confuse love with unlimited access, I replied. He also taught me to count to 10. I've been counting for 5 years. Raina's eyes glossed with tears that didn't fall.
"We'll remember this," she said.
"I hope you do," I said, and stepped into the truck's cab. Pinecrest greeted me with a hush I'd almost forgotten was possible. The company apartment was small and bright, with blinds that opened to a slice of sky and a courtyard fig tree that made its own weather. I slept like a stone the first night. No TV bleeding through the walls, no kettle whistles to obey, no footsteps waiting for me to get up. By Wednesday, my badge worked at a new door. North Star Pinecrest was all steel and rhythm. Forklifts sighing, conveyors murmuring, a distant chorus of beeps where orders became motion. I rolled up my sleeves and mapped the dock flow on a whiteboard. 2 hours later, we flipped the intake lanes, rerouted returns, and cut average unload time by 16%. The team didn't cheer. They just moved like someone had finally removed a pebble from their shoe. "Whatever Grayridge paid you, it wasn't enough," said Mr. Halstead, the site director, handing me a printed attaboy and a grin. "Good instincts, Ms. James." At lunch, Dion and a coordinator named Sanaa found me on the bench by the loading bay doors. Sanaa handed me a foil-wrapped sandwich and a look that felt like a welcome mat. "We host a casual Friday supper, spades, a pot of greens, no shoes required," she said. "You're coming." "Non-negotiable," Dion added, bumping my shoulder. The invitation loosened something behind my ribs. I hadn't realized how long I'd been holding my breath. On the 8th morning, the intercom buzzed just as I tied my laces. "Miss James," the concierge said. "Two women here insist they're family." The elevator hummed like a warning. When the doors opened, Marvette and Raina stood beneath the lobby chandelier, posed for sympathy and spectacle. Mom's cardigan was buttoned wrong, hair soft at the edges in a way she used to reserve for funerals. Raina's eyes were artfully red, her lipstick perfect. "There she is," Raina announced to the room. "The daughter who left her family with nothing." Phones lifted, glances flickered. Miss Porter, the security guard, looked at me, waiting for my cue. "Good morning," I said evenly. "This is unexpected." Mom stepped forward, palms out. "The lights are about to be shut off. The fridge is empty. How can you sleep at night?" "I paid the utilities through the month," I said, hands steady at my sides. "I left a mortgage payment, a list of resources, and a plan. It's enough to stand on while you learn to walk." Raina wheeled toward Miss Porter. "It's a private matter. My sister abandoned our mother." "It stops being private when you bring it to my lobby," I said, still calm. "Also, I didn't abandon anyone. I stopped financing choices that weren't mine." Dion stepped from the elevator with 2 coffees and a quiet read of the scene. "We got that supplier huddle in 5, he told me, like a lifeline I could choose to take. Raina tried to sweep past him toward the employee corridor. Miss Porter shifted 1 foot, and the way opened for exactly no one. "Employee access only," she said pleasantly. "She's my sister," Raina objected. "She's my colleague," Dion replied, just as pleasant. "With a meeting." I nodded my thanks to both of them and turned back to the women who had taught me how to feel guilty for breathing too loudly. "I have to go," I said. "You'll figure out the mortgage." "You can't just walk away from family," Mom cried, volume up, eyes scanning for audience. "I'm not walking away from family," I said. "I'm walking toward being one of its members instead of its engine." I left them there, in the echo of their own words, and followed Dion into the elevator. The door slid shut on Raina's stunned face, and for a brief, perfect second, all I heard was my own pulse leveling out. That night, my neighbor across the hall, Shauna, knocked with a casserole and a stack of takeout menus. "New City can be loud in your head," she said. "I'm 2 doors down if you need quiet." We ate at my counter, talking about nothing urgent, game nights at the rec center, the best farmers market peaches, how Pinecrest sunsets turn the sidewalks lavender. When she left, the apartment felt less like a holding pattern and more like a beginning. My phone lit up, 42 missed texts, 19 voicemails. I skimmed the previews. How could you, after everything Dad would be so, and set the device face down. I washed the 2 plates by hand and let the hot water run over my knuckles until my shoulders unlocked. On Friday, Mr. Halstead passed my desk and tossed a lanyard with a small enamel pin. North Star's quiet nod for process fixes that stick. You make clear space, he said simply. That evening, Sana propped my apartment door open with her hip and breezed in with a Dutch oven. Collards and cornbread, she declared. We play spades at 7. We do not talk about work after 8. Dion arrived with peach soda and a deck of cards he claimed was lucky. I lost 3 rounds in a row and laughed so hard my face hurt. When the laughter faded and the night settled, I stood by the window with the blinds cracked, watching taillights stitch red lines down the street. Pinecrest hummed without demanding. The quiet felt earned. My phone buzzed against the counter. A new message from an unknown number slid onto the screen. This is Luca, from back home. Raina's friend. Thought you should know it's rough at your mom's now. She picked up a shift at Carter Drug, part-time cashier. She's mad, but she's doing it. I exhaled a breath that didn't quite know what to be. Sadness, relief, something hybrid and honest. I typed back, thank you. Then I put the phone on Do Not Disturb, turned off the last light, and let the apartment go blue and quiet. For the first time in a long time, the dark felt like a room with the door open, waiting for me to step through to whatever came next. 2 weeks passed before I returned to Northbridge, the place that used to define me. I told myself it was to finalize mail forwarding and collect old paperwork. But deep down, I knew I was walking into the final test of my resolve. The James house looked smaller from the street, like it had exhaled all its pride. The rose bushes Dad had planted were sagging, their blooms browned at the edges. I parked across the road, engine idling, pulse steady but heavy. When the front door opened, Quentin stepped out carrying a box to his car, half the living room packed tight.
He froze when he saw me.
Leora. Lord, you scared me. I need to pick up a few things, I said. He shifted from foot to foot. Your mom's inside. She's not exactly, well, she's not gonna love this. I'm aware. Inside, the smell of lemon cleaner and exhaustion hit me first. The furniture outlines tattooed themselves on the floor where my pieces had once been. The shelves Dad and I built gone. The coffee table I'd refinished gone. My home reduced to ghost shapes and dust. Mom appeared from the kitchen, apron half-tied. Her expression cracked somewhere between accusation and panic. You took everything, she said. I took what I bought, I replied. Everything I paid for. Quentin's brow furrowed.
Wait.
You mean you've been covering? For years, I said simply. Every light, every mortgage payment, every grocery trip, every doctor bill. Before he could respond, Raina stormed in from the hallway, phone in hand. What's going on? You can't just barge in. You mean into the house I've been paying for? I asked. Raina's voice rose, high and sharp. What happened to Dad's insurance? That was supposed to cover the mortgage. Mom looked away, color draining from her face. Well, the kitchen needed updating, she murmured. And your car, Raina. My car. Raina shrieked. You said we had savings. What savings? The policy was $41,000, I said. It vanished within 10 months. Raina's lips parted. You knew. I found out when the bank called about an overdue payment, I said. And there was nothing left. Mom sank onto the couch, the one piece of furniture too heavy to sell, and began to sob. Please, Leora. Help us figure this out. You always know what to do. The words hit me like a bell tolling the past. You always know what to do. My entire adulthood had been built around that expectation. I didn't move. That's the problem, I said softly. You never learned how because I never stopped doing it. Raina paced, fury replacing fear. You're really going to stand there and do nothing while Mom's sick? You're heartless. My heart's fine, I said. It's just no longer a shared account. Mom gasped theatrically, clutching her chest. My blood pressure medicine. Stress will kill me. Quentin, still trying to keep up, blurted. You should have told us how bad things were before you left. I pulled a folded document from my bag, the current mortgage statement, and placed it squarely on the counter. 5 years left. It's yours now. Raina grabbed my arm. You can't just walk away from family. I gently freed myself. You wanted to be a family. Then be one. Outside, the October air smelled clean, cool, and real. As I reached my car, my phone vibrated with a notification. Marvette James attempting to access a closed joint account. I didn't flinch. A text from Raina followed. This isn't over. And then another email ping. North Star Finance confirming my loan name removal. Freedom signed, sealed, notarized. I leaned against the car door and let out a breath that felt like it had been waiting years to escape. I'd done it, not with fire, but with paperwork. I'd burned the bridge by signature. By the next afternoon, Pinecrest greeted me again like an ally. The quiet of my apartment didn't feel empty. It felt earned. I brewed coffee, checked my emails, and caught sight of a new one from Human Resources. Suspicious online review alert. It read, Leora James handles logistics the way she handles family, by bailing when things get tough. I didn't need to guess who wrote it. I forwarded it to HR with a calm note, and then froze my credit across all 3 bureaus. Experience had taught me not to underestimate desperation. By evening, a call came from Dion. Dr. Walker's office had a cancellation. You should grab that therapy slot, today if you can. I almost said I was fine, but I wasn't done unlearning. Dr. Walker's office smelled like cedar and strong coffee. You look lighter, she observed as I sat. Maybe because I finally stopped mistaking guilt for loyalty. She smiled. You prepared the boundary list I asked for? I handed over a page titled, What I Will and Won't Accept. The first line read, I will not fund adults who refuse to fund themselves. She nodded approvingly. And did they test these boundaries yet? I laughed once, brittle and bright. They listed the house for sale, without resolving the mortgage. Her eyebrows lifted. How did you find out? The realtor called when my name came up on the loan documents. And how did that make you feel? I looked out the window where the late sun spilled across the blinds. Like she still thinks I'm a blank check with legs. We spent 50 minutes talking about response versus reaction. By the time I left, my shoulders were no longer tight around my ears. In the parking lot, my phone buzzed with a GoFundMe link. Help the James family keep their home. Raina's smiling face. Mom's fragile hand in hers. The caption. After our sister abandoned us during hardship, we need your help. I stared for 3 long breaths, then screenshotted it and sent it to my lawyer. Subject line, defamation. When the reply came, got it. We'll handle this discreetly. I felt no triumph, just the steadiness of someone closing a door that had been left open too long. That night, my doorbell rang. I peeked through the peephole to find Dion, Sanaa, and 2 others from work, a casserole dish balanced between them. Intervention, Dion announced, stepping inside without waiting. You've been working and not living. I laughed, a real one this time, and let them. We talked about movies, new shoes, the way Pinecrest glows orange at dusk. No talk of bills, no talk of obligation. Just people. Before they left, Sanaa squeezed my shoulder. Thanksgiving's at my place this year, she said. Bring nothing but yourself. Later, alone again, I scrolled through my phone. A new text from an unknown number blinked. Your mom's working part-time at Grant's Pharmacy now. She's mad, but she's managing. Luca. I stared at the message until it blurred.
A job.
Independence, forced maybe, but real. Good, I thought.
About time.
I set the phone down, pulled the curtains open, and let the night wind drift in. Pinecrest was humming below, indifferent to my family drama and generous enough to offer quiet. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for peace. I was living in it. 10 days later, the antiseptic tang of hospital air hit me before I even saw her. Mom, Marvette, lay in a crisp bed, silver now threading freely through her hair. The woman who once commanded a room now looked almost folded into the sheets. A dozen get-well-soon cards lined the window sill like witnesses. She blinked up when I stepped through the doorway, clutching a cheap bouquet I'd bought in the lobby. Leora? You came. Her voice cracked in that practiced frailty I knew too well. I stopped at the threshold. 3 steps would bring me to her bedside, but my feet wouldn't move. The doctor says it's a minor procedure, I said carefully. Raina made it sound like you were dying. Mom's hand fluttered to her chest. My heart, baby. Palpitations since you left. Dr. Simon says stress. I set the flowers on the windowsill, arranging them beside the church cards stamped with gold crosses. Pastor Williams called yesterday, I said. Something about a family healing meeting. Her eyes filled on cue. Running away, cutting off your family. It's not like you, Lily. The nickname made my stomach twist. For a split second, I almost heard myself say, just until you're back on your feet. But that programming was broken now. I didn't run, I said. I moved on. The bathroom door opened and Raina emerged, phone still glowing in her hand. She froze when she saw me, surprise landing just a fraction late.
Oh.
You're here, she said, smoothing her hair and tucking her phone away. Did you get my messages? Everyone's meeting today. I'm not staying for that, I said flatly. She reached into a tote bag and pulled out a worn leather photo album, its spine cracked. I brought something to remind you who we are. She opened to a Polaroid of Dad teaching me to fish, Raina 5 years old, and grinning on the dock. Family comes first, she whispered. That's what Dad always said. A muscle jumped in my jaw. Is that why you told people I had a breakdown? To help me remember? Raina blanched. I was worried about you. Worried enough to spread rumors? Or to lie to Mom's doctor? Mom's heart monitor beeped faster. Leora, please not here. Then where? I asked quietly. Where do we ever have the truth? My head throbbed. I pressed my temples. I could feel the old guilt curling at the edges, begging to be let back in. Instead, I reached into my bag and drew out a thick folder. I brought you something too. Raina frowned. What's that? Evidence, I said, setting it on the tray table. 5 years of receipts. Mortgage statements. Prescriptions. Groceries. Every dollar I spent keeping this house running while you found yourself in Atlanta. Mom turned away, shame coloring her cheeks. That's cruel, Leora. I was grieving. So was I said. But I still went to work. Every day. I pulled out the last document, a faded job offer. Mesa Ridge Logistics, Regional Supervisor, $24,000 annual increase. I said no to this because of you, I told her. I said no to myself for 5 years. Raina's phone chimed again, but she ignored it this time. Uncle Robert and Aunt Denise just arrived, she said. And Pastor's with them. Good, I said, voice steady. They should hear this. Uncle Robert entered first, silver at his temples, face drawn into cautious sympathy. Aunt Denise followed, then Pastor Williams, clutching his Bible like a prop. Leora, he began, we're here to help the family heal. Perfect, I said. Let's start with honesty. I gestured to the spread of papers. Robert adjusted his glasses, scanning the figures. Marvette, what's all this? He frowned deeper with every line. Mom stared at the ceiling. Raina jumped in. Leora's under a lot of stress. I'm under stress because I've supported 3 adults on 1 income. I interrupted. While Mom told people I abandoned her and you, I looked at Raina. Told the neighborhood I'd lost my mind. Aunt Denise picked up a mortgage bill, eyes widening. Marvette, you told us Leora left you destitute. She took all the furniture. Mom protested weakly. The furniture I bought, I said. After Dad's insurance money went to Raina's car and that unnecessary kitchen remodel. Pastor Williams cleared his throat. Perhaps we should. No, Robert said sharply, cutting him off. This needs daylight. He pointed to the faded offer letter. You turned down this promotion to stay here? I nodded. Something loosened in my chest at the recognition in his tone. Robert looked at Mom, voice firm. Your husband would be ashamed, not of her, but of what you and Raina have done. The room went still except for the steady blip of the monitor. Raina's gaze dropped to the floor. Mom's chin trembled. I didn't realize, she whispered finally. I didn't know how much I took. Her words should have felt like victory, but they landed hollow. Recognition isn't redemption. It's just truth spoken too late. I don't need apologies, I said, sliding the folder closed. I need boundaries. But we're family, Raina said, her voice thinner than usual. Yes, I said, shouldering my bag. And family means no one gets left behind. But it also means no one gets carried forever. I turned toward the door. Raina hurried after me, whispering, "Can we at least talk about the mortgage due next week?" I stopped, met her eyes, and said one word that felt like closing a lifetime's tab.
No.
The sound of it echoed in the hallway as I walked out, lighter with each step. Outside, the autumn wind brushed my face, and for once, it didn't sting. It lifted. A year later, the October sunlight streamed through gauzy curtains, tracing soft lines across the hardwood floor of my Pinecrest bungalow. Not grand, but mine. Every tile, every color, every bill paid by me and no one else. The promotion to Regional Logistics Director came 3 months ago, more pay than I'd ever dared imagine, but the real wealth was peace. I'd bought this house with my own signature, not as a co-signer, not as a fallback plan.
Just me.
I sat in my reading nook with a mug of black coffee, toes buried in a braided rug. Outside, my garden was a small riot of dahlias and sunflowers swaying in the crisp air, plants that thrived on neglect and sunlight, no drama required.
The doorbell rang.
Robert stood there, holding a paper bag that smelled of cinnamon and butter. "Brought fresh scones," he said, grinning. His salt and pepper beard caught the light. "Breakfast before your shift." 6 months of steady, easy love. No silent scorekeeping, no rescue missions disguised as affection. Just partnership. We ate warm pastries at the table while the morning hum of Pinecrest drifted through the window. My phone buzzed. Cousin Mia's name lit up. I excused myself to answer. "Leora, thank God," she said, voice trembling. "Deshawn left. The kids are a mess. I can't cover rent this month. Just until I get back on my feet." The familiar refrain. Same pitch, same rhythm, same expectation. "I'm sorry that's happening," I said softly. "The community center on Willow Street helps with emergency rent. I'll text you the number." Silence.
Then, that's it?
"After everything our family's done for you?" "Yes," I said simply. "That's what I can offer right now." I ended the call, exhaled, and felt nothing but calm. No guilt. No echo of panic. Just certainty. Robert looked up from the kitchen island. "Everything okay?" "Actually," I said, smiling for real, "yes." Later that afternoon, I sorted the mail. One electric bill, one flyer for the local farmers market, and my monthly mortgage statement. No red warnings, just a clean record of steady progress. My name, my home, my life. I opened the fridge, fresh produce, cheese I liked, and orange juice in a glass bottle that cost a little extra but made me happy. Choices made for me, not around someone else's needs. My savings alert pinged, another automatic deposit. The numbers rose quietly, a small monument to freedom. At my desk, I opened my old leather journal, the one Dad had given me at 16. "For your big ideas," he'd written on the first page. I smiled and added a new line beneath. "Family isn't martyrdom. It's mutual care." Dr. Walker's words echoed in my mind. Guilt is just fear, wearing good manners. Next week would mark 18 months of therapy. 18 months of unlearning the script I was born into. That weekend, I hosted my long-delayed housewarming. Dion, Sanaa, and half the Pinecrest crew came carrying food and laughter. Mrs. Ellison arrived from Northbridge with potted cuttings from my old herb garden, mint, basil, thyme. "These belong with you," she said, placing them on my porch. They always did. The night was filled with easy talk, work jokes, plans, future trips. No one asked me for money, for favors, or for forgiveness. They just existed with me, and that was enough. Before she left, Sanaa pulled me aside. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "My brother just moved in for a little while," she said. "Already talking about next year. I don't know how to say no." I recognized the slump of her shoulders. the shape of someone used to carrying everyone else's weight. Your worth isn't measured by sacrifice, I told her, pressing one of Dr. Walker's business cards into her hand. And if you need to talk, I've got coffee in time. Her eyes softened. I didn't know I could choose differently. You can, I said. I promise. Later, when the house was quiet, I sat on my porch swing, the same design Dad once built back in Northbridge. The October wind brushed past like an old friend, cool but kind. 3 months had passed since I'd seen Marvette and Raina at the 4th of July picnic, a short, civil encounter that ended the moment they reached for guilt again. Mom had looked smaller, humbled. She didn't apologize, but she didn't demand either. That was enough. My phone buzzed. Mom calling. I hesitated, then answered. Hi, baby, she said, voice quieter than I remembered. I just wanted to hear your voice. How's the new place? I looked around at the home I'd built, the light, the peace. It's good, Mom. Really good. I'm glad, she whispered. You were right about boundaries. That single sentence settled over me like sunlight. Thanks, Mom, I said. We talked for 5 minutes. Nothing heavy, no manipulation, just human conversation. When we hung up, I stayed on the porch swing, eyes closed, smiling. Inside, the clock ticked softly. The fridge hummed. My world was finally quiet. Freedom, it turns out, doesn't roar. It hums like this, steady, patient, self-made. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the family's foundation. I was my own. And that's how a story built on obligation turned into one about ownership, not of property, but of peace. For years, I thought love meant carrying everyone else's weight until my knees gave out. But walking away didn't make me heartless. It made me whole. I learned that family isn't supposed to drain you. It's supposed to stand beside you, not on top of you. Now, every sunrise in Pinecrest reminds me that freedom isn't selfish. It's survival dressed in self-respect. If this story spoke to you, hit like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me, have you ever had to choose peace over family pressure? Your support helps us keep telling powerful stories of strength, truth, and poetic justice, where healing becomes the best kind of revenge. Stay tuned for the next tale, because in Revenge Tales camera, every ending is earned, and karma always keeps the receipts.